put her on blast because she was telling me, you know, she was saying to me that what I was asking for was crazy and they wasn't spending money like that. I'm talking about you got footage, you got clothing, you got, I was doing footage, I had pictures, all the stuff that I had, you know, you could figure out a way to pay a brother and stuff like that. And then I was telling her about some prices that I've already received and I had the invoices to show it. And then she was calling me like I was lying. I'm like, yo, who do you think you talking to? You know what I'm saying? And she was talking about, you know, there's no way nobody paid. Nobody what? I say, first of all you people come with these documentaries and stuff. The first thing you tell me, y'all tell these people out here that y'all don't pay, and y'all pay. If you can make a picture look like $10,000, $15,000, you know what I'm saying? You can sit here and tell me that you're gonna pay me for my time sitting right down here with y'all. You understand? So then, you know, one thing led to another, and I was like, yeah, all right, well then, you know, F you, you know, I spoke to 50, and then she said 50, and this is exact words that came out her mouth. 50 does not determine what goes in and go out of this.
Gene Deal is back talking heavy, and this time he says he's got receipts. According to him, these are details that never made it into 50 Cent's Netflix documentary. The headlines are wild. Talk of $1 million check, alleged advance awareness around Tupac Shakur, and the notorious big timeline that challenges what most people think they know. You clicked because the word online is that Gene Deal is dropping bombs 50 didn't want anyone to see.
Netflix docuseries about Sean Diddy Combs is making headlines for its never-before-seen footage of the music mogul in the days before his arrest. Now, Combs is threatening legal action against the streamer for airing the unauthorized footage. Behind the series is Combs' longtime rap rival 50 Cent and director Alexandria Stapleton, who sat down with NBC News' Chloe Malak.
So let's cut through the noise. 50 sold the Diddy documentary to Netflix for millions, and the internet expected one name front and center, Gene Deal. Why? Because he was Diddy's bodyguard during the peak bad boy years and has been one of the loudest voices telling stories from that era for years. He wasn't just around, he was close to key moments. Yet when the series dropped, he wasn't in it at all. No interview, no clip, nothing. Now the story going around is simple. The footage didn't make the cut. Conversations, tapes, and details. The kind of stuff that either gets you paid or gets you erased. So today, we're breaking down why that connection reportedly fell apart and what people believe was left on the editing room floor.
Wolf was not the gunman who killed Jake, and Mark Curry knows that to be true. You understand? And East Coast War was more like Helena of Troy. When Puff got mad at Suge for being out there and allowing Misa to come out there to make money, however she was doing it, to feed her family, he vowed down that it's like, yo, I ain't never f***ing with her again, and I ain't never f***ing with him again. Puff and Suge had a conversation behind the House of Blues about was we all right, and Tupac was alive. Tupac wasn't dead. So if it was a war, Suge ain't having no conversation with Puff about we good. I know he could be doing the Hoboken hustle, trying to fool a brother, but had he killed my man or some shit like that, I wouldn't have no conversation with Puff. I'd been like, yo, you know what y'all niggas done? You know what happened? And it wasn't no conversation like that, brother. It wasn't no conversation whereas that, you know, Suge made Puff feel like I'm gonna get you a payback for what happened to Jake. This was more so that Puff, for whatever reason, Suge, for whatever reason he was mad at Puff, and Puff, for whatever reason he was mad at Suge, it was between them two. It wasn't no whole East Coast wanted the West Coast dead, and the West Coast wanted East Coast to dead, because they still was going out, still chilling, still at places with each other. It was Bad Boy, and it was Death Row. It wasn't no East Coast and no West Coast. West Coast dudes were still coming out on the East Coast getting love. East Coast niggas was still going out on the West Coast getting love. It was Bad Boy versus Death Row. And that's what it was, bro. And it was because of the two CEOs. But Suge tried to straighten it out. I gotta get at the Suge. The Death Row East Coast was going to bring in Eric B. It was going to bring in Big D. And those brothers was from the East Coast. So now they was looking for a representative to come to the meeting from Bad Boy so they could straighten out the shit between Pac and Big and Death Row and Bad Boy. And Puff is the one who refused. Puff is the one to refuse to send a representative or either come his himself and got mad at Zip and them because they were in the Mirage on 57th Street partying with Suge Knight. Got mad at them, and Zip hung up the phone on behind that.
But what you mean by Mark Curry? He know who killed Big J?
It was some Jamaican dude from the Bronx. He's dead now. The police ended up killing him at Magic City. I don't know his name. But Mark Curry know that it wasn't Wolf.
But when I was looking at the documentary, Kirk Burroughs, he did confirm that Big, he didn't want to go to LA. And they was actually getting warnings not to go to LA. But, you know, Diddy, he wanted to go, man.
My man, yeah, we must have had warnings, man. I didn't know. I knew that we shouldn't be out there in the first.
Here's where the claims point. Alleged advance awareness that Tupac was in danger, a $1 million check story, and a sequence of warnings and missed chances tied to both Tupac and Biggie, presented as public narratives and accusations, not confirmed facts. Quick context. The rollout was marketed as a deep expose, never-before-seen footage, behind-the-scenes moments, and a series promoted to land alongside major legal headlines. Online chatter said it was supposed to be longer, but what aired was a 4-part drop. The pitch was big, expose everything.
Incident of the Quad Studio shit. Like in the documentary, they was talking about that, right? You know what I'm saying? They talked about the Quad Studio shit, but they didn't mention the fact, and they left it out, that Big and C's did not know that Puff and Andre Harrell was in Jimmy Henchman's office the day Pac got killed. I mean, the day Pac got shot at Quad Studio. Let me repeat that again so it don't get mixed up in the whole thing. They did not mention that Andre Harrell and Puff Daddy and Jimmy Henchman were all in the office together. Puff was on the office because he was trying to spy on Big them, because Big was writing the Junior Mafia stuff and Puff had his publishing. I told this to a couple of people before. I said it before, and you got people that's running with it like they knew the story in the whole 9 yards. You understand? They'll lie and you ask them, how do you know that? Who told you? They couldn't even tell you that. They'll tell you some lie, they did some kind of investigation, but it didn't happen like that. You understand? Puff was there to spy on Big because he had owned Big Publishing, and Big had turned around, and the same people who helped Puff get Big Publishing told Big to turn and put Tatiana or put somebody else's name on his publishing, or give it to Lil C's or whoever, this, that, and the third that he wrote for, so he can get the money from it. So that's how that went down. So they was there to spy on Big. In the interim of him being there to spy on Big, Jimmy Henchman told him that they finna teach Pac a lesson, because Pac had owed him some money. So that's why he was up in the studio and was coming to the studio. Pac owed him some money. He was gonna work it off and get some money from doing a song with Lil Sean. And that's what that was about. But Pac was talking greasy to Jimmy Henchman, and Jimmy Henchman wasn't the type of dude that you talk greasy to, alleged, unless you 50 Cent.
So Diddy knew what was going to happen to Pac.
He knew Pac was about to deal well. Yeah, he was there to see it. He wasn't only there to see Big them. When Jimmy Henchman told him that, he was there to see what's going to happen to Pac. He was there for that, because had he not been there for that, he would have went up there in the office. He would have went to the studio or the studio session with Big them. He would have went to that studio session with Big them. He knew what room Big them was in. He didn't do that. He was there to see what was going to happen to Pac after Jimmy told him. And that's.
But the loud complaint online is that the most important piece never aired. So who is Gene Deal in all this? A former bad boy bodyguard during the East Coast-West Coast era, with timeline proximity to Vegas when Tupac was shot, and to Los Angeles when Biggie was killed.
Puff have been involved in Tupac's murder or Biggie's murder?
I think that when you set up an atmosphere for something to happen, how involved are you? You set up the atmosphere. You put people in positions to get hurt. He knew that somebody was going to do something. He was told. I told him before we left. I told him. Mace told him. See, people ain't telling. See, everybody think that Gene Deal is the only one know this shit. I'm not the only one that's know this and privy to this information. I'm the only one that's speaking on it and has spoke on it. Now, people are coming out gradually, but when Puff set up an atmosphere for somebody to get hurt and they get hurt, don't you take some responsibility for that?
Is that more tactics? He's not going to pull the trigger. He might not even pay someone to do so, but like releasing that song Who Shot You, that creates an atmosphere, creating certain things and planting seeds in somebody else's mind to be number one, where Tupac ends up getting killed, Biggie ends up...
Whether you buy it or not, that's the positioning. Someone tied to the moment now speaking publicly. The first question stays the same. Why isn't he in the documentary? The most repeated answer is money and control. Early on, the team reportedly wanted stories and footage, but a conversation with director Alex Stapleton allegedly changed the vibe. The takeaway circulating online is that 50 didn't control payments or content, and the number on the table felt disrespectful. Unique footage, first-hand stories, major historical moments, yet the offer reportedly felt like pocket change compared to the project's value.
B idolized him off. He idolized Tupac because you got to realize when a woman looked at Tupac, they probably wanted him. Puff wasn't getting that type of fever from girls. You understand what I'm saying? Puff had to use his money. Puff had to use his position in order to get women. Now, I seen him with some bad joints, and I used to look at them like this, like, not on no hating shit, but like, you wouldn't be here if he wasn't Puff.
So the move was to walk away and refuse participation. But pay isn't the only reason people point to. Another issue is what didn't get included. Details that would have made the doc messier, riskier, and harder to defend. Take the East Coast versus West Coast angle. Critics say the framing skips what they call the real story behind bodyguard Jake Robles' death.
And my man Boom Dang, aka my man Slick, a check for $1 million. We don't know, and everybody trying to say, lying, talking about half of it got paid, 500. I don't know. I know when I asked him we asked him, do we ask? No, we didn't ask him. I know when he showed us the check and he walked away after he showed us the check for the $1 million, you understand? I asked Boone, I said, yo, Boone, when did he get a record label? He said, you know how Zip is. I said, when did he get a Zip record label? Zip had a check for $1 million. He said he got it from Barry Hankerson and Jimmy Henchman for his record label, Black Ground Records. So now, if that's true, we know Jimmy Henchman and Puff was cool. You should be able to trace $1 million if that's the truth. If that's the truth, you should.
Pushing a street-level explanation over a broad conspiracy narrative. Names get brought up, including Mark Curry, with claims that he knows who did it. Again, claims, not proven facts. The framing online shifts from coasts to labels. Bad Boy Records versus Death Row Records, with Suge Knight treated as a central rival.
Law enforcement on how, if did he had anything to do with breaking that money up or giving that money up to him like that? Or did he use somebody else? Or did he do something for somebody else to be able to get that money for that? We don't know.
I was just about to say that too. Keefe D, he can use him for the upcoming trial.
Well, Kirk was meticulous in always keeping notes and files and things like that. But that money can't, just do a trace on $1 million check. Just do a trace on them. I want them to do it because that would prove that I saw $1 million check. That would prove. Just do a trace on it. The man dead now. What you?
Another missing piece people cite is an alleged peace attempt. Claims that Death Row tried to set up a meeting to cool tensions, and Bad Boy didn't show. No representative, no sit down. The argument isn't that this proves a crime. It's about moral weight and missed chances. Now we reach the part everyone calls explosive, so let's keep it clean. What follows are retellings of accusations and public narratives, not confirmed facts. The story floating online claims there was advance awareness around the 1994 Quad Studios shooting and that key figures were in close proximity that day. One detail critics say was stripped out. Andre Harrell and Jimmy Henchman being together in Henchman's office, with Diddy nearby, again, alleged not proven. The narrative paints it like this. Biggie and his crew supposedly didn't know Diddy was there. Diddy was expected upstairs at Biggie's session but stayed behind, as the story goes, to monitor what was unfolding. That's the version being debated online, and the reason Gene Deal says his side never made it into the final cut. So the next question people keep asking is simple. Why keep tabs on your own artist? The explanation that keeps getting repeated online comes down to money and leverage. In this retelling, the belief is that the notorious B.I.G.'s publishing was tightly controlled, and that Biggie was actively trying to maneuver his way out of that situation. The advice described in this narrative is that Biggie was being told to move his publishing under someone else's name, possibly a spouse, possibly Lil Cease, so control of the money could shift. And that is where the picture gets darker in the version being circulated. The story people repeat is that Sean Combs was sitting in Jimmy Henchman's office that day, watching how Biggie was moving, instead of going upstairs to Biggie's studio session. In that same room, according to the retelling, a plan gets spoken out loud. A teach pack, a lesson, a debt that needed settling. The studio appearance that night gets framed as part of resolving that debt tied to a song with Lil Sean. Then the tone shifts because disrespect is allegedly part of the mix, and situations like that rarely end quietly. The hard accusation being pushed is that awareness existed because the plan was discussed openly in that room. And people keep asking the same logic-based question. If nothing was known, Why not go upstairs to Biggie's session? The studio location was known. Yet in this version of events, Diddy stays put and waits. That's why this gets marketed as facts in online storytelling. But it's important to be clear, this is an accusation being repeated, not independently verified evidence. Still, the accusation itself is brutal. Knowing something was coming, offering no warning, making no attempt to stop it. And the claim is that the documentary avoided this angle completely. From there, the story shifts from money into motive and personality. And this is where it gets personal. This part frames resentment toward Tupac Shakur as something deeper than rap or fame, something tied to women, presence, and energy. Tupac gets described as naturally magnetic. Walk into a room and everything shifts. Meanwhile, Diddy is portrayed in this narrative as someone who needed money and status to command the same reaction. A quote that circulates heavily in this version is, "I don't know how to talk to women." The takeaway pushed by that angle is personal jealousy, building tension over time. Then comes one of the most dramatic moments in this story. The setting shifts to 112th Street, someone sitting on a stoop with Eric "Zip" Johnson. Zip allegedly walks up showing off a new car, proud, flashy, and then pulls out a check. Not just any check, a $1 million check. According to the story, the check is said to have come from Barry Hankerson and Blackground Records, with Jimmy Henchman connected to the situation. The timing is the hook, right after Tupac's death. This is where the narrative leans heavily on the money trail. Not cash in a dark alley, but a check that would move through banks, leave endorsements, deposits, and paperwork. The argument is simple. Paper trails don't disappear. That's where another name enters the conversation. Kirk Burroughs, former president of Bad Boy Records. He's described as someone who kept detailed notes and files. The story tied to him claims he once mentioned paying for people to travel to Las Vegas around the time Tupac was killed. Even in this retelling, there's an admission. Not every detail is personally confirmed from memory. But the larger point stays the same. If records exist, paper trails talk. And if paperwork shows who paid who to do what, the suggestion is that it could crack everything open. That leads to the lingering question. Will anyone ever investigate it fully, or will it stay buried like it has for nearly 30 years? Now we shift into the Biggie section, and this is where the narrative moves from money to warnings and movement. The setup places Gene Deal at the scene the night Biggie was killed, and the timeline being told doesn't match the simplified version most people grew up hearing. According to this account, warnings started coming in early. A call allegedly came from Wesley Unique Wright, calling from federal prison in Colorado. The call reportedly only got 2 words out, "Vest up," before the line went dead. The explanation offered is that 3-way calls get detected and cut. A follow-up call allegedly confirmed it was really Unique, coming through Mecca Audio. Then another warning came through the same woman. "They're coming out. They're coming to get y'all." Security became the issue. Kirk Burroughs was contacted, more protection was requested, but according to this version, the crew only had 4 guards total for Diddy, Biggie, and everyone with them. The claim is that it wasn't nearly enough. And then comes the refusal. No additional security approved. A second warning allegedly arrived from Chaz Williams with the same message. Reasons for the beef get tied back to what people believed happened to Jake Robles, and even an alleged phone call Biggie made that ended with the Winter Bagel in New York being shot up. That's where this part of the story stops, and where the questions get even heavier. A separate conflict gets added into the mix, an argument involving a Muslim individual at the Soul Train Awards, plus ongoing street tension after Tupac's death. Rumors about sets, affiliations, and retaliation were already circulating, so the danger was being treated as very real. The timeline moves to Andre Harrell's house, where Diddy was staying at the time. One detail always mentioned in this version of events is Diddy coming down the stairs wearing a white Beverly Hills hotel robe, joked about like it was stolen. Then the tone shifts fast. A warning is delivered directly. "I got intel. People are gonna come and try to kill us." The reaction, according to the retelling, is blunt dismissal. "I don't want to hear that." Then the offer, "You don't gotta go if you don't want to." And then they leave anyway. Next, another key name enters the story. Clark Kent, DJ and VP at Motown Records. He's described as being in Biggie's room the night before. A party gets framed as not random, but intentionally set up at the Peterson Automotive Museum. Biggie is quoted as saying something along the lines of, "D-Rock Puff, set this party up for me so we can go outside." The environment is described as high alert, blood's everywhere, a weapon allegedly held behind someone's back. When it's time to leave, resistance is described, Biggie questioning why someone is telling him how to do his job. That's when the threat comes. Get in the car or lose your job at Bad Boy. So the car ride happens. A command goes to the driver, Kenny. Run the next 3 lights, get out fast. Then panic. Someone says Biggie's name isn't coming across the light. A gun gets pointed. Shots ring out. Pop, 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 pop. Kenny floors it. Someone yells, "They're shooting Big." The car stops. Doors open. Everyone gets out except Biggie. A chase follows in another Suburban, but the shooter's car disappears. Then comes one of the most haunting questions in the entire story. There was a hospital just 2 blocks away, but instead, the drive lasts nearly 30 minutes. Biggie is bleeding. Time is draining. Final words are reported as, "Don't let him go to sleep. Keep him up." And then, just do it. The belief pushed in this narrative is that choosing the closer hospital might have changed everything. At this point, the focus shifts, not to who pulled a trigger, but to responsibility. This angle isn't saying someone committed the act. It's saying they helped create the conditions, ignored warnings, refused de-escalation, set up environments where violence was already being discussed in the background. The argument becomes, if you help build the atmosphere, do you share responsibility when tragedy follows? Again, this isn't framed as direct payment or pulling a trigger. It's framed as a chain reaction. Choices made, warnings ignored, peace meetings refused, music releases like Who Shot Ya escalating tensions after Tupac was shot, Biggie going to LA despite multiple warnings. All of that is used to ask the same uncomfortable question. So why would 50 Cent leave all of this out of his documentary? 3 reasons get repeated again and again. First, legal risk. The Keefe D case is still active. Leaning into unverified accusations could turn into a legal nightmare overnight. Second, credibility. 50 wants the documentary taken seriously. Gene Deal is compelling but controversial. Cutting him out keeps the project cleaner and harder to attack. Third, money. Gene reportedly wanted to be paid what he felt the footage and stories were worth. If the numbers didn't make sense, the cut happened. Business is business. Add to that reports of cease and desist letters, accusations of stolen footage, and claims the documentary was a hit piece. And piling on even riskier material may have been a line Netflix didn't want to cross. There's even an extra story floating around that Diddy allegedly sent 50 Cent funeral-style flowers at Club 11 in Miami. Whether that's true or not, it shows how deep the tension still runs. So here's the real takeaway. These are still allegations, not verdicts. A narrative, not a conviction. Listen carefully, but keep your head on straight. What people believe is that 50 either couldn't or wouldn't include certain material. Advanced awareness around Quad Studios, the $1 million check story, the warnings before Biggie's death, and the idea that specific choices helped fuel an environment that ended in tragedy. That kind of content is exactly what gets labeled too risky. Maybe it was legal, maybe it was credibility, maybe it was money. Whatever the reason, it didn't make the edit. And now, it's being pushed straight to the public. Underscore 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 underscore. If this breakdown made you think, make sure you hit the like button, share this video, and subscribe.